I've seen my fair share of these videos on YouTube, people talking about sexual misconduct, people getting raped in prisons and stuff like that. And me being a person, and I would never brag about it for my stupidity to ended up spending 32 years of my life thrown away in Texas prison system. But I want to set the record straight. All this stuff you look on here and they're like basically making it a hot topic of prison rape. Oh, I'll start off back like in the 70s. I went to prison for the first time in 1978. And the only known times I've known of somebody basically getting a manhood took or either just being coerced into giving a body up was probably less than, I'd say 3 at the most. I heard it one night and then we all know what was going on. The person yelling for the officer, which we called them bosses, yelling down there, boss, boss. And I can hear somebody was muffling his sounds by putting their hands over his mouth, I could tell. I had a cellmate, we call them cellies. So my cellie, I had a cellie before. When he got put in the cell with me and this other guy, which I want to point out, they had 3 of us in a cell that was built for one person. And things went on. They would take things from these weaker inmates, coerce them into it, but it was mainly by conversation, not by beating them up. And you would go to solitary. They had 3 people stacked in a cell in solitary. And things went on. They had one guy. They beat him up during the day and night, tie him up whenever they went out for shower and stuff like that. And they found the boy tied up, and nobody tells the story about what happened to these people who brutalized people back then. And they got the hell beat out of them, and they put them under the prison. This was before prison reform, because with prison reform, a lot of other things came, which I'm going to turn my attention to now, is the prison litigation that went on back then to end the violence in the Texas prison system. And what they did, they took away the factor of 3 to a cell. They had to build more prisons because they were so overcrowded, only 26 inmates, and the laws they was passing couldn't keep up with the capacity because the laws was locking up people for longer times and the prison system just bust at the seams. And so they had to get 3 people out of a cell. So going into the 80s, you had the factor of 2-on-1 was taken away. So now you had 2 people. Now this lowered the aspect of certain things when it came down to an inmate getting coerced or laid out of his ass or threatened or even hit 1 or 2 times and stuff like that. But like I say, probably about 3 times out of 32 years I actually known of somebody getting raped. So going into the 80s with the prison reform, what they did, they started matching people up, height, weight, just like a boxing match. Basically, you would match somebody within a weight class. So now it made the playing even physically pretty much close to it because you got somebody in there, you about the same age, height, and weight now. Sometimes it was slight mismatches. And they added another factor to it. The other factor they add to it was called the Prison Reform Act. This didn't happen overnight. It happened over years because Texas had goals to reach. They had to get so many inmates off the floor, and they started mass releasing people. And we called it the revolving door back in the early 80s. And they gave out more good time where you just straight up discharge your time, and there was people just pouring out of prison because they found themselves within violation of a judgment. The system was pretty much going to be held in contempt of a federal court order. And okay, with that said, and the other reforms put in place, it took away the physical ability of one to rape another man in prison. And so now, with that and other reforms they put in place, and the biggest weapon it was the inmate ability to report if he even much felt this person was pressuring him. So picture this, you're sitting there and you got a cellmate, and he's basically talking to you about sexual things, and you start feeling uncomfortable. All you had to do or have to do is go down there and verbally report it or pass it on a piece of paper to the officer, and you will be moved, and this individual will be locked up somewhere. And this, with these things going on, it was basically unnatural to take a human being, a man that's meant to be free, and put him in this little 4x8 cell with another man. And this is an environment of people sexually starved, and things are said and done. But I say to you, brothers and sisters out there glorifying this prison rape stuff, you're talking about a man. A lot of them with kids, a wife, girlfriend, or whatever, and you glorifying something like this happening to a man, and it can destroy some people. And it has. But this is just not a major part in the last 25 years in Texas prisons. It goes on in another kind of way, but I can guarantee you is that this individual is basically getting played out his ass because nobody's beating nobody up, taking their ass. And this ain't coming from some Texas prison guard sitting here making this video to downplay things. And I can say my name. And most people know me from the Texas prison system going back years. And they knew me as Hickman. Y'all know I did my share of beating niggas' asses. I've won them and I've lost them. And nobody can ever say that I didn't do something to somebody that they didn't deserve. And whatever happened to me, I didn't deserve. It was just a way of life in there. And the madness. But I woke up. And I got my ass out of there. I straightened up and I flew right. Yeah, I did my little hustling, making money out of stuff out of the kitchen and different things like that. And, somebody that crossed me wrong, did something disrespectful, and I broke them off something. I spent my time fighting up and down these roads, mopping the floor with people and getting mopped. It's just part of the program. And I want to look now going toward the 90s. And in effect in the 90s, and I was in prison all of the 90s. And I can't tell you one time I even heard of it. somebody getting their ass took. All of the 90s. And so that right there going into about 2014, all the 90s and into 2014, when I got out. And I can tell you, if you really want the truth, you want this myth buster, listen to me. But you're not seeing these videos from these real old, what we call them old boots, convicts that did time back in the Gap when it really was hard down there, when it really was a jungle. And what we called it, where I was on Ferguson when I first started out, it was called Gladiator School. And I'm going to tell you, we fought like gladiators back then. You held your own. They worked our ass up to sun up to sundown. A lot of people, you knew the weak from the strong because you had to carry them in. And then a lot of times they came in from working all day. And the little out time we had in the day rooms out there, like nothing ever happened. But what it did for me was it made me physically stronger. I thought it made me mentally stronger, but I really was weak because trying to do things with my hands and to other people, it wasn't all that. The stronger man walks away from a fight. And I want to give credit to David Ruiz. His name is David Ruiz, who filed a federal lawsuit challenging this cruel system, this Texas prison system where the abuses was going on, and it led to permanent change, getting people off the floors, 3 people out of cells, ending the rape in prison, and putting a stop to the abuse from the officers. Because I went in there, wasn't nothing for them officers to beat the hell out of you. Other inmates, they had inmate guards. We call them rotenders. On some units, they call them BTs. And they was big part of the problem. They removed all that. And I know what my people felt like years ago to be called nigger. Called nigger in front of black officers. And it was a learning experience to me. And it helped me stay my ass out eventually because it finally sunk in. I'm 7 years free, a good job, got my own home, and I'm not looking back on that. I'm looking forward. And I hope this helps some people and bust this myth on you fakes, man. This entertainment of prison rape. This is not entertainment talking about a man getting his ass took. How would you feel if this was you? Or your father, your brother? Stop the myths, brothers. Stop the myths.